Welcome, Monica Guerra. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where do you come from? Where are you from in California? I know you're from California originally, but where did you grow up?
Hi, David. This is Monica. I grew up in the Inland Empire in a city named Riverside.
Uh-huh.
I
In
grew up
California?
there in
Uh-huh.
California. Yes,
Uh-huh.
correct. And a smaller city in the city of Riverside called Corona.
Okay, in Corona, California, you grew up. All right, very good. It's funny because I own part of an indoor go-karting facility, and its headquarters was in Corona. So that's interesting.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're familiar.
Little piece of useless trivia for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sure the people who are listening will enjoy that useless
Yeah.
trivia too. All right. So like when we bring people on, we like them to share some leadership lessons that they've learned. But I like for you to tell a little bit about yourself because I can introduce you because I know you fairly well, but I think it's better for you to tell us a little bit about what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. So I work for companies called Scott Manufacturing Solutions in Chino, California.
Mhm.
I am the executive director of human assets. And what I do on a daily basis is I basically just manage the human assets department, and managing the recruiting, and the development of our people.
So like the traditional HR functions, like getting payroll done, all
Correct.
those types of things, and then recruiting for the company. But I know also you're very active in the training of the people in the company, are you not?
Yes, correct. So just recently we have added a recruiting specialist,
Mhm.
and working with Assured Strategy with coaching and also creating our own training, whether it's their traditional training on the actual work, or it's training for a specific skill.
Okay, and so you guys do all kinds of training, and I know that you do training on how that you want them to act and behave in the company. And so
Yes,
you
correct.
do training on their core values, and then you also do training on their actual jobs, so to increase their productivity level.
Correct. And the most important training is our core values, and it's actually one of the things that we place on our job ads, and we follow it all through our onboarding, and throughout their the training of on the job. The core values, the training, and the awareness of our core values, just it never ends.
Yeah, yeah. When we're talking to leaders about this, it's like you have to keep on talking about this, and when you think that you've talked about it too much, and you have to talk about it more, right?
Exactly.
So it's never ending. It's because you have to keep those things in front of people if you want and expect them to do them. So tell us a little bit about what your leadership lesson you've learned over your career that's really helped you advance your career. Because I know when we first came in and started working with you, you weren't at the level that you are now because you're actually on the executive team and you actually
Yes.
help with the leadership of the company. So why don't you share with everyone your leadership lesson that you've learned over time?
Of course.
Mhm.
So yes, throughout these last few years, it's been a roller coaster, really, and just being able to be a part of all of the ups and downs has really given me a great lesson of learning, and my greatest lesson that I have learned is just basically learning how to build your people in order to grow your company, because without people you don't you basically don't have a company.
Right. Right. And so leadership lesson has been centered around growing the people. And when you grow the people, like you had talked a little bit about core values. So like what are some of the things you do around that?
So with our core values, when we first brought them into light, it was really about the question was, do these resonate with what your people are actually doing out on the shop floor, out, throughout their days? And we really had to think about the words and the meaning of what is it actually that makes us who we are and sets us apart. And once we created those core values, we have, with all of the books that we've been reading, the Ideal Team Player, the 7 Habits, we've really incorporated them into not only our employee handbook. We hire, fire based on our core values. We place them into our job ads. We reiterate them during our onboarding. We place them all along our walls, in the restrooms of our company. So they're really ingrained into our employees. And it's become so ingrained that people don't want to come to work if they're working next to someone who doesn't have the core values.
Oh, that's awesome. And so like when you're saying that, it's like what you've learned is that the core values really guide how everybody shows up every day and what they do. And the people, when you say the people don't want to work next to somebody, like, give me some examples of that. Like, where does that come up? Like, give me a funny situation, because I'm sure there's probably some, and they're not funny at the time, but they're sort of probably funny now when you sit back and think about them. But give me an example of something that may have happened. You can leave the names out because it doesn't
Okay.
really matter.
Actually, something just happened not too long ago. We were interviewing for an additional recruiter, and I was involved in the interview, and my current recruiter was involved in the interview. And we hire for core values, so we and humble, hungry, and smart. So the book, The Ideal Team Player, is some of the questions where we have actually pulled out our questions from. And we were asking this person a question, and it was, what do you look for in your counterpart? And the person said, if you're having a bad day, don't express it to me, because I don't want you to make me have a bad day. And I looked at, we looked at each other, the recruiter and I looked at each other, and we just, when that person left, it was like, this person doesn't have our core values. They're not trying to help, the other person succeed. If someone's having a bad day, you help them recognize, or you help them through the issue, or you just support them. And, just it's helping each other succeed. And that's one of our core values.
Right. And so your expectation would be that that person would actually help them and motivate them and try to get them to turn around that frustration or downness that they're having. And what she actually said to you is, I don't want to be a part of it. Don't talk to me.
Exactly.
Okay. And you've already seen that in your company, haven't you? That
I have, yes.
Right. And how was that? How did it work for the company when that behavior was alive?
It made people feel, and I have plenty of examples, but it just makes them feel uncomfortable. It makes it feel uncomfortable to come to work and have someone be negative, or just not showing up with pride, or not doing whatever it takes. And it takes a lot, because you're coming in, you're doing whatever it takes, you're going beyond your job description, and somebody comes in and they're just doing the bare minimum.
Right.
And it's not fair for an A player to be surrounded by C players.
That's right. Yeah. And a player would have a high core value alignment with the company. And then they would
Exactly.
also be very productive employees. You can actually train them to be productive, which you guys spend a lot of time doing now. But I can't really train them on the core values. So that's why your emphasis is so heavy in the interview process. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and like to share, is there something you can think of that as you're sitting back thinking about it, that like helped you move up in the company? Like, what did you do to help yourself move up in the company? What did you have to do for yourself?
Um, I honestly, I had to get out of my comfort zone. And Assured Strategy has really helped with their coaching, and getting me into a headspace of bigger picture thinking. And that's doesn't really necessarily is not just about me, but it's thinking about and my department, the human assets department. It's thinking about the company in a whole. And I think really that's what has elevated me to become not just a manager, but more on the executive mindset.
Right. When you said that, I was sort of laughing because you were the first introduction. I mean, I think I met you when I came to the company the very first time, and I would
Yes.
tell everyone that's watching right now for you to, if I would have asked you to get on a radio podcast show with me, you would have like, there's no way I'm doing that. And
Yeah.
and when the person you're the coach Ted Serrata, who works with you now, he told me you were coming on. I went, what? She's coming on? And I thought it was just fantastic. So I appreciate you getting out of your comfort zone, and I know the company has done a 180 in how the performance and what it's doing right now. I know you guys are super profitable. I know your
Yes.
revenue is
Yes.
more than doubled in a very short period of time. I know
Yes.
that you have really grown as a leader, and I would just say it's an honor to sit here, and having met you maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because it's even before COVID, right?
Yes.
Meeting
Mhm.
you 4 or 5 years ago, and then seeing what you're doing today, I'm just very proud of you.
Thank you so much, David. That means a lot.
So, and you've just done an amazing job. And when I talk to your CEO, she tells me I couldn't have done this without you. So that's quite a big statement. And I know that you've done a lot of work yourself to advance yourself, and you didn't make excuses. You just plowed through it, kept with it, and kept on doing your job every day. And I just really commend you on what you've done. And thank you for sharing about the core values,
Thank you.
because I think it's so very important, right? In the things that
Very important.
that's right. And it's hard for a lot of people to understand that, but once they start using it, then they understand it.
Makes a world of a difference. Yes.
Yep. Well, hey, thank you for joining us today on the Strategy Sherpa Show. And we'll be right back after this message.
Thank you for having me.
All right, welcome to the back to the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I have a special guest for all of you. You're in for a real treat. We're in talking to LouAnn Gray, and LouAnn, we on the show we have these segments that we like to put together on great leaders that we've met along the way. And we love to involve them and have them share some of your wisdom. And so share with us some of your wisdom, because you wanted to share, you had a specific thing you would like to share with everybody. So I'll just open it up and let you go.
Okay, well, just to kind of real quick background, we were a family business that was purchased by another company. And during that purchase, I was offered a position to stay on with the purchasing company. And I took it, not really knowing what was going to happen, and was given the opportunity to build teams. Specifically a charter team, a sales team for the aircraft, and get them moving, because the company that purchased us had no charter team at all. So I was tasked with that, which I was the only charter salesperson at our small little family company. And that was a little daunting at first. I didn't know where to go, didn't know where to start, and kind of floundered for a while. And I hired Deborah on my team. She was an amazing addition. I had known her for 15 years. She was kind of a competitor. It took her a while for me to talk her into coming over to us. Then I was tasked with growing it even more because our team went from 100,000 in sales the very first month to almost $1 million within 4 months. And of course, that brings more people in. That was a little scary too. Yes, it was quite a jump. And I needed more of a team. Didn't quite know how to start, how to look. Through that, we started the leadership training. The disc profiles came out. It was a little shocking at first. It was hard to digest because you're looking at yourself on a piece of paper, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to fix this and I've got to fix that. And how can I be a good leader if I have this deficiency? Well, going through and starting to understand that they're not deficiencies. They're pieces of puzzles. And that's kind of how I had to turn around and look at it. So it took me a few months to figure out that the disc profile is your puzzle, and you have pieces missing of your puzzle. Well, another person has pieces missing of their puzzle as well. So if you put people together that match with their puzzle pieces, then you start understanding and you can start building a team by placing the correct pieces in your puzzle. So
can I ask you a question before you go to the team?
Sure.
So you and Deborah, okay. So you end up hiring Deborah. Her disc profile is a little bit opposite of yours.
Correct.
So what you're saying by saying opposite, just to help the listeners understand a little bit better. So your weaknesses are her strengths and her weaknesses are your strengths.
Yes, exactly. So I'm a higher D and I'm also a higher I than she is. She is a high C and a high S. So when you're putting your puzzle together, you want to look for, in that position that you're hiring for example, I'm hiring customer service. I'm looking for a customer service person that has a high I and a high S, because I want them to be able to relate to the people. I want them to understand the situation, but I also want them to be able to follow the procedures that we have. A salesperson, for example, needs
which are usually D's and I's, right?
Right, which are usually D's and I's. But Deborah is one of my top salespersons, and she's a high C.
Yep.
But
you don't have to be a high D to be a great salesperson.
You don't have to be a high D. But I do notice that I give her parameters for the sale. So, for example, if we're selling an aircraft, and I tell her, make sure that we get at least $3,000 an hour for this trip. And it's kind of in a gray area where it's, maybe like $2,950 is what it comes out to. She won't make that decision upon herself. She calls me in and says, okay, LouAnn, is this close enough? And I'm like, well, let's look at it. Okay, actually, the flight time is more than what it should be. So yes, that comes out to $3,000. She likes a kind of more of a linear black and white situation. Whereas a higher D would make that decision quicker than someone with a C. She will ponder that decision for 2 hours, where I'll look at it and go, sell it. Let's get it on the books. And so you can't have a whole bunch of D's on your sale team, because if you have a whole bunch of D's, to me, they're making decisions all the time, and they're not sometimes getting stopped and say, hey, let's look at it. For example, my tailor that's on my sales team is a 99D. And
Get out of his way, baby. He's going fast.
she is. Yeah, she is. Let's make
Oh,
this decision. Yeah, she is just all over. I mean, let's do this. And I'm like, hold on. Yeah, let's look at it real quick here. You know, we've got maintenance coming up, etc. We've got to make sure.
Hold on. You're a high D too.
I am a high D, but I'm not at 99. I'm only 60.
Yeah, but so what you've learned is that sometimes high Ds need to be slowed down a little bit with the high C's detailed questions.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I have an assistant that's a high C, and I tell people all the time, she saves me from myself.
Right. Exactly. And so, and I also look at too, when I'm looking at because now we actually hire on, or not hire on disc profiles, but for the candidates that make it through to where I'm interviewing them for the last final interview, we do disc profiles on them.
Yeah, and you were talking about hiring the high I, high S,
right,
for a customer service role, right?
Yes.
So a high I is very interactive. They like to talk.
Right.
And then a high S is very patient and very
Exactly.
good at slowing down and listening to people.
Right. So there needs to be kind of a middle of the road with those two. Because when you're in customer service, especially in aviation, private aviation, there's a lot of things that are out of our control. Weather, for example, weather right now in Erie, Pennsylvania, there's a snowstorm. We have customers that are sitting on the ground, and we're going back and forth with our customer service team, making sure that they stay calm. You know, okay, this is what we can do, and giving them their options without revving them up, you know, because if a high D is in that situation, they're going, let's make this decision right now. Well, if we wait a few more minutes, let's see what the weather patterns change, if they clear the runway, etc. And a high C will wait too long to make those decisions. They could literally, you know, well, let's wait till tomorrow. Let's wait till next week. Well, and you're going, they need way more information to make the decision. Whereas my customer service team needs to pass along in a calm, collective manner what they're going to be giving to, or what their options are. And if they get, I hate the term yell, but elevated responses from said customers because they're going, you can't control the weather. And you're like, well, I've tried for a long time and it's not been working. If you have a line to God, please let me know, because he's not listening today. And so that high I and high S can be patient. They can listen. They become your friend, or they can gather that information and listen to the customer and create a friendship with them.
And that's their real strength though, too, right?
Exactly.
So that just comes naturally to them. So that makes it easier for you, where you don't end up having to train on this, right?
Exactly. So
because
that
they just naturally get it, and you're able to focus on training them on the elements of the job that maybe they don't know, and not teach them how to behaviorally act.
Exactly. So that is what has made my team, because I believe that giving my team the knowledge to be able to make these decisions, and because if they don't have that knowledge, then they're knocking on my door all the time. My phone is never going to stop ringing. And so giving them the parameters and the strength and the knowledge that they need to make the decisions. Deborah's questions have gotten way less over the last 2 years that she's been employed with me. So that's because she's gained the confidence to make the decisions faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the power of what you've discovered with it. And look, that's what we teach here at Assured Strategy. And I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us today. And I just, in these leadership segments, it's really important that we're hearing from leaders and to express authentic feelings. You could actually feel, as you're going through your story a little bit, some of your excitement and some of the pain you've discovered by not understanding some of this stuff. But I'm glad you're on your journey you're on. And I want to thank you for coming today and sharing some of your wisdom with us. It's been really valuable. And I think your authenticity just really comes out in your message. So thank you for joining us today on the Strategy Sherpa Show, and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Great. I do too. This was fun.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez, and I have a special guest today. I have Kim Seeley, and she is with the Partners Group out of Portland, Oregon. And Kim, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is Kim Seeley, and I've been with the Partners Group for 21 years.
Wow.
We are a financial firm, and my expertise really is around the employee benefits consulting side of things. It's an industry that I landed in.
Hold on 1 second, Kim. My camera fell off.
Yeah, sure did. I didn't know if that was the camera or your.
No, my camera fell off my actual computer. So I have a external camera because they wanted me to spruce it up a little bit, and then it fell off. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to start over again.
That's okay.
Guys.
That's okay.
All right, so let's try again. Nothing like doing this. Good thing we're doing recordings. All right. So, all right, I'll start all over again so we can get a break for it. Hey, LouAnn, you're gonna have to start over again on the time. Sorry, I messed that all up.
All good. I'm on when you're ready.
Okay, hold on. Let me fix my camera because it messed it up, the calibration of it. All right. All right, there we go. Okay, Kim, I'm sorry. So you were doing so well too. All right, welcome. This is David Chavez. This is a Strategy Sherpa Show. And in these segments, we do leadership lessons. And today I am lucky enough to have Kim Seeley with me out of the Partners Group out of Portland, Oregon. How is the weather in Portland right now?
It's rainy.
Oh,
surprise,
okay.
surprise.
Yeah, surprise. Well, Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I've been with the Partners Group for now going on 21 years. We are a financial services firm, and my expertise is in the employee benefits consulting side of things. And specifically, I run operations for the employer services division.
Mhm.
That keeps me on my toes. It is the largest division for our company, and I have roughly about 80 employees that are in that division.
Yeah, so the employers division, so that's where all the companies, you're interacting with the companies and making sure their benefits are taken care of and things like that, right?
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And it also extends to doing some analytics, some healthcare spending analytics, as well as total absence management and wellness strategies.
Okay, so if any employer is out there and they're looking for a good insurance person, Kim is the person you need to call, probably. All right, because she's probably that's right. All right, and what we do is we talk about leadership lessons here. So what is your role right now? What is your active leadership role? How many people do you have directly reporting to you?
Gosh, directly reporting to me, I only have about 7 or 8.
Well, that's good.
Yes, but I also have several directors that report to me, or one director that reports to me, and then she's got 2 or 3 client service managers that report to her. So we've kind of right-sized that. A few years ago, I had way too many people reporting to me, over 20, and now this is a lot more manageable in that 6 to 7 range.
Yeah,
So,
you're leading some of the leaders now, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And operationally, I'm, extending that into other divisions and providing, I think I would say, some feedback around best best case scenario as it relates to operations as we continue to grow, because we are a growth firm. So, and that's always super exciting. There's a lot to do when you work for a firm that is a growth firm.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, and there's a lot of opportunity for you too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably been why you've stayed 21 years, because it's always changing.
That's right. I actually grew up kind of in the organization, if you will. I started out as an account manager, then became a large group account manager, then a director of large group account management, then director of service for employee benefits, and then that morphed into managing director of employer services. So,
Oh, very good. Very good.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you've been with them for 21 years. What did you do before you came there? How did you find them?
So, as often is the case with
Uh-huh.
business, people that graduate with business degrees, I needed a job right out of college. And so I ended up in the employee benefits industry. I worked for a Fortune 500 wholesale disability insurer for 7 years in a variety of positions. And I was at a crossroads back then in my late 20s, newly married. My husband and I wanted to start a family. And I wanted something that was going to be more flexible as, we started our family and raised our children. And so I made a conscious movement from the carrier side over to the consulting side. And back then when I started, I'd like to say I didn't know how to spell health insurance. And I've quickly learned quite a bit over the years. And now I pride myself on understanding many of the ins and outs around employee benefits, some of the funding techniques, the legislative components, the compliance, which has really just gotten more and more complicated over the last 5 to 7 years. So,
Wow. Yeah. I know it's probably very complicated. I would tell you it's like the tax code probably. They're always adding stuff and nothing makes logical sense.
right. You're right.
All the political whims of whoever's in office, and the law is changing.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
so on this show, what we do is we talk about leadership lessons that people have
Yeah.
learned. And you've been working with some of the people on our team, and they said I had to talk to you about your leadership lesson. So I'll leave the floor to you, and you can start sharing.
Yeah, sure. So I would say, one of the leadership lessons that I have learned, and I'm constantly learning and constantly honing my craft and my skill. And it's super interesting. So as a managing director of operations, so part of my job is that I need to be able to make quick decisions, and I need to quickly pivot. I need to set boundaries, hold people accountable. And that is both for our external folks as well as internal folks. And what I've found is that people appreciate my willingness to make quick decisions and to kind of follow through, to establish a plan. But the way I deliver it has a huge, huge impact on how it's received. So and specifically, I think, with upper management and leadership, they really want me to slow down, where I'm ready to like dive into something and say, okay, let's move forward. Let's move through this. Let's make a plan. And they're like, whoa, settle down. Let's talk about the pros and the cons and soften your approach, right? Because I'm ready to go from point A to point B to point C and move through completion. And they really desire more consultative and a softer message. So I have to alter the way in which I give that message and that feedback, because in the absence of that, it comes across as a gripe or a complaint or just quickly moving through. And so I would say the coaching that I have received has helped me realize that and to pause for a minute. In the absence of that, then I become pretty ineffectual, and I'm really not leading my team in the best way that I can. And that's not good for the company, that's not good for my teammates, that's not good for our clients. So, you know, like I said, I'm constantly learning. So this is something I need to constantly remind myself, like, slow down just a minute. What they're looking for is a conversation, not a plan.
Right.
So,
So you're a solutions oriented person, and you in a conversation, you want results out of that conversation.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
And
So,
sometimes that doesn't go over real well with some of the people you're dealing with who want a more consultative approach. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Or they want a solution, but they really want to kick it around and you know, black hat it and say, okay, what are the pros and cons of this? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. And it can be frustrating to have to spend time to bring people up to speed. Where in my mind, I think, gosh, you should know this. Like, this is this is something that we're doing every single day. And I've got to just hold my horses, back it up, and you know, and spend the time to be deliberate so that my message is received the best way it can be.
And give me an example of that, like with a customer or even internally with one of your people. Give me an example of how that would show up.
Yeah. So I think most recently we have done some mergers and acquisitions. And so occasionally in the employee benefits industry, you will you know, take over a small book from a producer that is retiring or wanting to sell their book. And so when you take over a book of business, every single book of business is unique, right? And they have unique clients, and we want to service those clients to the best that we can, for sure. And we can't just change things altogether, right? That's a different experience for the client, and it's not fair to the client.
Right.
So, and what I would say is that we've had a couple of those acquisitions, and they're unique. And it's important, and we learned a lot, and that was kind of a new skill for us, a new skill around mergers and acquisitions. And so we had a lot of learnings in it. And I really worked hard on my messaging relative to my peers, and to say, hey, folks, you know, I could have just said, we could have done this better, this better, this better, this better, which sounds like a long list of complaints or gripes. In my mind, I was going to, this is how we can improve. So I softened my language and I said, okay, team, let's talk this through. Here are some things that I think we can do better. And let me give you some examples. And we had a very long conversation, couple of hours really, around best practices and starting to develop best practices around mergers and acquisitions, and how and I thought it was a very good conversation. I think that we really got to the end that we needed to, for making it a better experience for all involved, operations, for the clients involved, the new producer that's selling their book to us, you know, internally, our staff, our finance team, our legal team. I mean, there's a lot of different tentacles. So that's a great example, I think.
Right. And from the conversation that you had with your team, so what you did, instead of making it a complaint, you had a brainstorming session, because you guys are in the process of maybe doing some more of these, and and that's going to be very important going forward, right? Because you've learned a lot from doing it, and you want to do a better job next time.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, exactly. So,
and you had the people sort of solve their own problem.
Yeah. Right. That was great. It was a great outcome, I think, and it was a very productive conversation with good next steps. So,
well, Kim, I'll tell you, we're doing these short segments just to give people a little insight on leadership lessons, just quick ones. And I think this is very valuable, about taking a little bit of time and processing something to get a better outcome all the way around. So I think you gave it a great description, and thank you for visiting the Strategy Sherpa Show and sharing your wisdom.
Well, thank you, David, for having me.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll be right back after this message. Hey everyone, this is David Chavez, and we are back, and we just have 3 really great videos. I would tell you, I start off with the Monica video. That was the first one. So Monica has been working with Assured Strategy for quite some time, and you could sort of hear that in what she was talking about. She's the head of employee engagement at our company, our human engagement, they call it. And I just love the way she talked about her core values. I think that one of the things that leaders often miss is that core values sort of define the behavior inside of the company that they're sort of expecting from everyone in the company. And if you really think about this from a different point of view, it's easier to understand what I'm talking about if you're not using core values, because some people don't believe in them. Some people just refuse to engage in them. And when I have somebody like this, what I usually say to them is, I say to them, do you have kids? And the answer is usually always yes. Sometimes it's no, but then I ask them if they were a kid at one time. And I ask them if they have rules of behavior in their house. And they just start laughing at me. Of course we do, or else we'd have unruly kids. And then I say to them, well, how do you not have rules in your house for behavior that you and your spouse are both obligated to conform to just as much as the kids are? But you don't have rules in your business for behavior, and you're getting all kinds of wild behavior that you don't necessarily agree with, and you're wondering why. And so she gave a lot of really great examples about how valuable core values really are to a company and what it's done for their company. This is a company that 3 years ago was having some struggles to becoming super profitable now. And the reason they become super profitable is they contribute a lot of it to their core values, their processes, their training. But when you really get down to the essence of it, if they didn't have the core values that they're holding people accountable to and their behavior around that accountability, then it makes the training and the processes almost impossible to get people to buy into them. And so the first part of change inside of a company that's scaling is really the core values. So I loved how she talked about this. I found her talk to be very helpful for people to understand the importance of these things. So then let's go on to the next one, which is Kim Seeley. She also handles people engagement, and she's a go-getter. On a disc profile, she would be a high D, but she says she's not that high. But I would think that over the 50% line, she's a little higher, and she just likes to get stuff done. These people are very orientated to the result, and sometimes they don't always understand their approach as they're going in. I am a high D also. I've struggled with this at times in my own career, and I probably struggle with it every once in a while now. I don't intend to go in there and cause people discomfort, harm, things like that. But sometimes I'm trying to get the result and I don't really think about all the other parts of it. And that's one of the problems with a high D. So when you, I say, when you want to get something done, get a high D to do it, it'll be done. But if you want it to be done right and no dead bodies laying on the side of the road, a high D may not be your best bet. Because high Ds don't really care if they do it a little incorrect or a little bit differently than you would do it, just as long as it's done. And then they don't always take the finesse to have the conversations with people who are helping them. And so she got a hold of that and she started to understand that, and it started helping her in all different types of ways inside of the company. And she's developed a slower approach now. And her lesson really was to gain a slower approach. And that's a little bit differently from Monica, because I know Monica's profile and she's very much a people person. And she cared so much about the people that she was rescuing a lot. And now she doesn't rescue people anymore. She coaches them to a stronger orientation. So she's not taking people's problems on and making it hers. She's actually holding them accountable to trying to resolve their issues, and really interesting. And then we had LouAnn. Boy, I loved how all three of these people talked about DISC, and we didn't even really talk about it before they came onto the show. And hers was the discovery of how important DISC are in the hiring process and how much you need to pay attention to DISC in the hiring process. Because if my behavior is X, is the high D, like she said hers is, and then she hires a high C, high C's are very detail oriented. They want to know every little detail before they can even start a task. For a high D, that gets a little aggravating answering all those questions. But just as she said on her segment, that what she learned is that her right-hand person was asking her the questions that she really needed to be asked to expand her ability to do a better job on getting a better result. Because remember, high Ds go for the result, and sometimes they get the result, but it's at a heavy expense of other things that may have went awry while they were getting that done. And she's learned how to talk to people in a very healthy way so she can still get what she wants, but now she's using these to actually place people in roles where they need specific behaviors. And she discovered that a high D isn't always the best salesperson. And what we've found in Assured Strategy with helping a lot of sales teams with this issue is that sometimes complicated, long sales require a different personality than a high D, high I type personality that just wants to go get it, talk a lot. These people need to be a little more patient, a little more study, have a lot of the details available. And so those are the differences in the styles. And I just really appreciated what she said around that. All three of these people were just excellent in what they're doing. And they're all three clients of ours, which is not always the case on the Strategy Sherpa Show. But we really appreciated them coming on and sharing their wisdom, because I think all of them have gained quite a bit of wisdom around how behavioral profiles can really change your game. And I just really loved how each of them talked about it. Just wanted to give you some updates on some things that we're doing for the rest of the year, because there's a lot going on. On July 18th, we have a peak performance workshop. It's peak performance coaching. It's how to help your people get to that next level. So this isn't for performance coaching in the sense of like we're trying to give people on a performance improvement plan. This is performance coaching when you have somebody who's pretty successful and you're trying to get them up to the next level of success in their career, and you're trying to help them unlock some of that potential. You know, fears drive a lot more than we realize, and we're trying to help people get consciousness of their fear, and Warren's going to be talking about that and what you can do to get past those stages. The next thing is that we have a financial forecasting and planning webinar on July 30th. And that is going to be Ted Serrata and I, where we're actually going to walk you through how to do a forecast. Last I'll talk about is the September 17th Scaling Up workshop in December. We have quite a few tickets already sold, probably half of them already sold, and we look forward to selling out. We usually probably get close to selling out about a month out. So if you're interested in that, we only allow 15 people in our workshops. We may go up a little bit if we have some other requests, but we try to keep it between 15 and 20 just because we find that we have these amazing conversations if there's business leaders in the room together and there's not as many people in the room. And so some of the feedback we got from the San Diego workshop, it was interesting being in the room, learning about a system, and then having everyone in the room participating, talking about their business and some of the challenges they had. And it made everybody start to realize that some of these challenges are very common and how scaling up fits into those. So we'd love for you to come to our workshop. We do it a little bit differently than other scaling up coaches do. Thank you for coming to the Strategy Sherpa Show today, and we would love to have you come back. Take care.